Forest reject City's British record bid for Elliot Anderson. Meanwhile, Rashford's Barca dream is over. Kroos 2.0 snubs Europe's elite for Leverkusen. Arbeloa is headed to the Premier League. And FIFA's president tells everyone to just chill and relax despite all the World Cup chaos. This is DMAC Daily. Look, I know the transfer market is inflated to an absurd degree in 2026, but the finances involved in some of these deals potentially, particularly for Premier League central midfielders, are simply mind-blowing. Just yesterday, I spoke about how recently relegated West Ham have set an £85 million evaluation for Mateus Fernandes. And whilst that figure sounds excessive for a championship player with only 2 years of Prem experience, both of which resulted in relegation, I also wouldn't be surprised to see a deal of that magnitude come to fruition, because this central midfield profile is one that all of the big teams are willing to fork out stupid money on. I can tell you right now, this summer window will be defined by midfield transfer pursuits. We saw something similar unfold in 2023 with 9-digit transfer sums paid for Rice and Caicedo, amongst some other big fees too. So in 2026, expect something similar in the league with the likes of Fernandes, Tonali, Alex Scott, Baleba, Siddiqui, Wharton, and perhaps the most wanted of the lot, Elliot Anderson. Now, in the case of Anderson, his rise has been rapid. Remember, only 2 years ago, he was forced to leave Newcastle for PSR-related reasons, joining Forest for just 35 mil as a decent talent, but hardly a world beater at the time. Fast forward 2 years though, and he's a star for club and country and is on track to smash the British transfer record. City and United have been the two front runners, but financially speaking, this deal now appears out of reach for the Red Devils. So pending a crazy bid out of nowhere from another Premier League giant, we can probably assume he's headed to the Etihad shortly. It's just a matter of sorting out the finances. I believe a first bid around 100 mil was rejected, so City have come back for a second time, £106 million up front with a further 15 mil of potential add-ons. So that is bonkers money, proper state club money right there. But ironically, Forest still said no. Now, previous reporting said Forest wanted 120 mil, but according to David Ornstein, they're asking for a fixed fee in excess of Isak's 125 mil last summer, which again is just unfathomable money. A potential British and Premier League transfer record fee, but a deal that will probably happen. It is wild to think that Anderson will go for more money than fellow England midfield stars Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham. Granted, Anderson has 3 years remaining on his current contract, more than both Rice and Bellingham did when they transferred, but considering Anderson's reputation isn't in that world-class category just yet, it's a tad surprising. I'm not saying this to disrespect Anderson either. He's an incredibly well-rounded midfielder, great technique, very composed on the ball. He also has the physical qualities to excel at the highest level. To be fair, he's already shown that at times in an England jersey, and I assume he'll continue to elevate his levels over the summer. He does appear to be a favorite of Tuchel's after all. But yeah, I think this is only the beginning of the midfield madness, and Enzo Fernandez could be another mega transfer too. Last thing on this Anderson deal, and I think it's worth noting that him appearing to commit to the City project is a bit telling about the fate of the club. We're all eagerly awaiting the outcome of their 115 charges, but I can't imagine one of England's premium talents would be willing to join City long term if they were at serious risk of a significant punishment. Before we continue, a quick word from today's sponsor. Guys, the World Cup is just around the corner, and if, like me, you're planning on following every twist and turn of the tournament, FOTMOB is genuinely the best football app to have on your phone. For years, it has been my go-to football app because it's got everything from live scores, detailed stats, player ratings, lineups, group tables, and has all the latest news for the World Cup. It's all there, it's completely free, and better yet, is incredibly easy to navigate too. Whether you're tracking your national team, keeping tabs on a player from your own club, or following every match throughout the tournament, FOTMOB makes it ridiculously simple. You can also set reminders before kickoff and get notifications as soon as the lineups are released, so you never miss a single thing. Additionally, there's a lineup builder where you can create your own preferred starting 11s and compare them with what the managers actually decide to do. This is my Socceroos lineup. Popper, take notes. And how cool is this? FOTMOB have partnered with today's video to give away 5 national team shirts. To enter, simply download FOTMOB using the link in the description or pinned comment below, head to settings, tap redeem code, and enter the code BALL. That's it. So whether you're downloading for the giveaway or just looking for the best way to follow the tournament, FOTMOB has everything you need all in one place. So check it out using the link below and enjoy the World Cup. Thanks to FOTMOB for sponsoring today's video. Switching gears to another English transfer development, and where to next for Marcus Rashford? That is the question we're all now asking, as it appears Barca will not be exercising their buyout option of 30 million euros, which is set to expire on the 15th of June. Now, if I told you this 2 weeks ago, you'd probably be stunned at the news, but as we all know, things can change quickly in football. Last week, out of nowhere, the Catalan Giants wrapped up a deal for fellow English left winger Anthony Gordon for 80 million euros. No doubt Rashford would have been sweating at that news, but then 24 hours later, Barca's public pursuit of Julian Alvarez took center stage. So with the likes of Rafinha, Gordon, Ferran Torres, Yamal, Bardghji, plus fellow attacking midfielders Olmo, Fermin, and potentially Alvarez on top, the idea of signing Rashford for 30 mil made a lot less sense. Don't get me wrong, he's had a fantastic redemption arc in Catalonia, 28 goal contributions for the campaign. He's been a great addition on loan. However, Rashford is also 28, his wages are relatively hefty, and considering Hansi Flick's off-the-ball pressing demands, there appears to be a general consensus that other options are preferred at Barca long-term. So what does this mean for Rashford? Well, there's a new manager at the helm at Man United in Michael Carrick, but it doesn't appear that Rashford is particularly eager on a return to his former club. I think that ship has sailed. Although, considering he still has 2 years remaining on his contract, they're not going to just let him leave for next to nothing either. Now, Fabrizio Romano has since suggested that the 30 mil deal's off, but Barca remain open to the idea of another loan. That seems the most likely scenario, at least at this stage, unless he cooks at the World Cup. However, it must be stated that Gordon appears to be the first choice left-wing option for England currently. This man is haunting Rashford for both club and country. Moving to German transfer news, and Bayer Leverkusen may have just pulled off one of the most significant youth transfers in European football. FM players, if you know, you know, as the Bundesliga club has secured the signature of 16-year-old German midfield sensation Kenneth Eichhorn from Hertha Berlin, beating the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Leipzig, amongst others for the prodigious talent signature. Best of all, they got him dirt cheap too, despite being the second highest valued U16 player on the planet, just behind Max Dalman's evaluation at 20 million euros. Leverkusen poached him for approximately 9 million euros. Now you may be wondering, how exactly did they pull this off? They're not a traditional European giant, and they didn't qualify for the UCL this season either, but they are one of Germany's premium talent incubators, with Eichhorn ultimately viewing Leverkusen as the clearest pathway towards regular first-team football at a high-level Bundesliga club. The club's recent history is littered with examples of elite prospects becoming stars too, most notably Florian Wirtz and Kai Havertz. Whilst the next gen of young players at the club is really exciting too, with Ibrahim Matza, Ben Seguir, Kofane, Poku, Kulbraith, Axel Tape all showing immense promise. That long-term vision was reinforced further by sporting director Simon Rolfs and new head coach Carlos Martinez, who went above and beyond to make this deal happen. So Leverkusen fans are understandably buzzing with the news, because this isn't your typical 16-year-old kid. Eichhorn already possesses a remarkable level of poise and maturity in his playing style. Operating primarily as a defensive or central midfielder, he's already renowned for his composure under pressure, his match intelligence, and ability to just dictate the pace of a game. Those qualities have inevitably led to comparisons with German legend Toni Kroos, and whilst I would argue Eichhorn's probably a little more athletic in his movement, like Kroos, Eichhorn appears mostly comfortable orchestrating play from deeper areas, constantly scanning the pitch and looking to find those progressive passes. Ironically, brother of Toni, Felix Kroos, gave an apt description of the 16-year-old, saying, quote, "The way he plays is remarkable. He radiates calm." If you look at his accomplishments already, it's clear this kid's going to be special. He became the youngest player in 2 Bundesliga history, the youngest goal scorer in the DFB Pokal's history, and this season started 17 of his 20 league matches. If it wasn't for an ankle injury, he would have featured even more prominently. Now, some people will be cautiously optimistic with the young German, especially considering the recent rise and fall of wunderkind Yusufa Moukoko. He also broke out emphatically at 16, but I think in Eichhorn's case, it's a little different. How often do you see central midfielders thriving at the professional level at barely 16? The answer is rarely, especially that deep-lying playmaker. I anticipate Eichhorn has a ridiculously high ceiling, and I think Leverkusen is the perfect environment for him to reach it. He goes to City or Liverpool, and that pathway is a lot more complicated. Now for a quick roundup of transfer news overnight, and Newcastle have secured the 4th most valuable U21 keeper on the planet, signing Stade Reims' prospect Ewan Jawoun for 21 million euros. A great deal there. Speaking of young talent, and Brighton are doing Brighton things, poaching Allsvenskan wonder kid Zadok Johanna for 28 million euros. Big money for an 18-year-old with less than 20 pro games under his belt. But from what I've seen, this kid is silky, left-footed, right winger. Wouldn't be surprised to see him playing in the Prem next season. One player we won't see in the Prem next season, however, is Raul Jimenez. He's departing Fulham, returning to his old club Wolves on a free transfer. Speaking of free transfers, and Marco Senesi officially joined Spurs and is set to rock the number 5 jersey, and Barcelona sign Egyptian talent Hamza Abdul Karim permanently for 1.5 mil. I don't think he's the Lewandowski replacement right away, but a talent they'd initially brought in on loan in February of this year, and now they've exercised that buyout option. Switching gears from players to managerial news, and Fulham may be preparing to make one of the most intriguing appointments of the summer. According to reports from The Athletic, the Premier League side have held talks with recent Real Madrid boss Alvaro Arbeloa over the possibility of replacing Marco Silva following his departure to Benfica. Now, Silva leaves behind a pretty respectful legacy at the club, having first guided Fulham back to the Premier League and then establishing them as a stable top-flight club, despite their limited spending comparatively. Truth be told, he kind of flew under the radar at times, considering just how good of a job he did. So the successor to Silva definitely has to be a good one, which makes Fulham's interest in Arbeloa particularly fascinating given his limited experience at senior level. The former Liverpool, West Ham, Real Madrid and Spain defender spent years climbing up through Madrid's academy system before suddenly being handed the first team job midway through last season following Xabi Alonso's departure. And while his 6-month spell at the Bernabeu was less than incredible and ended earlier this week with Jose Mourinho returning to the club, Arbeloa is still evidently seen as one of Spain's brightest young coaches, which is compelling to a lot of English clubs because Spanish coaches are currently killing it in England right now. Of course, appointing Arbeloa will still be a seismic gamble. Unlike Silva, he lacks years of experience managing at the senior level and would be stepping directly into one of the most demanding leagues in world football. However, his familiarity with English football through his playing days and his experience working within Real Madrid's elite environment could make him an attractive long-term option. My opinions on Arbeloa are neutral at this stage. He obviously didn't cover himself in glory in Madrid, but he also stepped into a nightmare situation. I'd be very curious to see how he performs in the English game. He's not on forward watch for me just yet. However, his performances at Fulham would be a great indicator of his actual managerial prowess. Finishing up with some World Cup news, and guys, we are less than 24 hours from the tournament's opener. I haven't really focused that much on a lot of the pre-tournament friendlies in the build-up because these are ultimately meaningless games, and more so because the off-field drama is instead taking center stage. Now, I spoke out at length yesterday about all of the chaos that has unfolded in the build-up to this year's World Cup. Check it out if you haven't already. But long story short, there have been several major controversies in regards to the US's immigration policies. Players and managers from several countries have spoken out about their hostile treatment upon arrival. Players have been detained for several hours. Staff members for Iran and Iraq have been barred entry. And an even bigger story then emerged as Africa's referee of the year, Somali Omar Abdul Kadir Artan, was deported despite possessing the necessary legal documentation required as a FIFA accredited referee. Now, the US State Department initially gave very little justification for their decision, citing vetting concerns. Outrage then ensued, so they have since released another statement with a senior administration official stating, quote, "Upon further inspection by Customs and Border Patrol, derogatory information, including association with suspected members of terror organizations, was discovered, making the traveler ineligible for admission to the United States under the Immigration and Nationality Act." When The Athletic asked the White House to provide details of these alleged ties, they received nothing. So yeah, until you see actual evidence of these supposed terrorist ties, we are to take everything they say with a grain of salt. Unlike the USA's own government that routinely dehumanizes people of Somali origin and all across the global south, I don't just eat up the racist propaganda they feed us. And thankfully, 99% of this audience doesn't either. What we do know is that this guy's been a FIFA referee for 8 years with zero issues in any other country. He already had a visa, but this is America. When FIFA's president was pressed on the issue and asked if he's lost control of the tournament, he came up with a brilliant response on the matter, just telling everyone to chill and relax and that, quote, "We are not the kings of the world who can rule the governments and police forces. We are a sports organization. In 2035, the Women's World Cup, I think, will be in the UK. Would you find it normal that FIFA will dictate the British government who to let into the country and who not to let in?" Now, I find those words in particular to be rather interesting or rather hypocritical because FIFA claim they can't do anything about a certain government's own rules and regulations, but may I remind you of Indonesia famously being stripped of their U20 World Cup hosting rights in 2023. Why? Because the government within Bali, where the draw was held, refused to host the Israeli team. I mean, the double standards are so evident, you have to be a moron to not see it. It's very frustrating to see these kind of stories take center stage. You know, I love the World Cup. It brings me no joy reporting on these very contentious issues, but I also think it's important to cover. Hopefully, we can focus on more positive stuff in the days and weeks ahead and that the football will take center stage. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for tuning into today's DMAC Daily. I'm planning to bring in daily match reactions for at least one World Cup fixture each day moving forward, along with my usual daily content, so stay tuned, and I'll see you tomorrow.